back to Rocky's Recap. This week we're going to go over and recap the divisional round playoff matchups last week, and then we're going to look forward to the matchups going on this week with the AFC Championship game and the NFC Championship game. So let's start from the top of the divisional round playoff games. So Chiefs versus Colts. I don't know about y'all, but the whole divisional round was definitely an upset for me as far as the closeness in the games. I was kind of disappointed. I thought they were going to be closer games, but I guess it's just that the other teams are showing that much dominance. Much more dominance, so I guess that's a good thing for them. It's not so much as fun for the fans watching. But anyways, this game, Chiefs-Colts, definitely didn't see this happening. If the Chiefs defense continues to play this way, they're definitely going to win the Super Bowl. There's nothing to say about that. Patrick Mahomes made some great throws in this game. The primary story was how Kansas City's defense was super dominant, and the stops that they were making, and just really shutting out a team where they have some offensive firepower as well. So Patrick Mahomes finished 27 of 41, 278 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, but he did have a rushing touchdown. Damian Williams making great of his opportunity here with Hunt and Ware being out. On the ground, 25 carries, 129 yards, and a touchdown, plus 25 receiving yards, a total of 154 total yards for the day. He now has 120 plus scrimmage yards in 3 of his last 4 games. He had 100 plus scrimmage yards only once in his first 71 career games. That's crazy. He's definitely making the most out of his opportunity here, and I'm definitely happy to see that. 4 rushing touchdowns for the Kansas City Chiefs on the day. 1 from Hill, 1 from Mahomes, and 2 from Damian Williams. Or excuse me, 1 from each Williams. Darrell Williams from LSU also had a touchdown there. Travis Kelce, 7 receptions, 108 yards. Hill, 8 receptions, 72 yards. Watkins, 6 receptions, 62 yards. There were 3 offensive fumbles. However, only 1 was lost by Watkins. The Chiefs had a 14-point lead after 1 quarter of play. They led the NFL in first quarter point differential, plus 91, the 4th highest in the NFL since 2000. So definitely they're a team with first quarter dominance. So watch out. They're going to be coming in guns hot. Defensively speaking, also are very hot. D Ford with a strip sack and a forced fumble. Houston on the recovery. As a whole, they had 11 pass deflections, 3 alone by Chris Jones, what a day by him, and 4 by Travarius Ward, who they just picked up recently. Justin Houston with 2 sacks. Great coverage in secondary, amazing pass rush, and good run defense. Honestly, just all around the ball, good defense. The Chiefs defense definitely came to play and made a huge difference in this game. They prevented the Colts from securing a single first down until 1 minute and 30 seconds remained in the second quarter. They batted down 3 passes at the line of scrimmage. They sacked, like I mentioned, Luck 3 times, despite him being protected by one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. And it could have been a better performance had the Chiefs not dropped 2 interceptions. So I can't imagine what would have made it better, because honestly, this Kansas City defense definitely showed up. And honestly, one of those dropped interceptions looked like it could have been a pick 6. So definitely would have put the icing on the cake for them. Congratulations to D Ford. His strip sack was his 11th pressure this season that has caused a turnover. So either a strip sack or an interception based off his pressures, 11 of them this year. He's the highest and the most in the NFL with that statistic. Andrew Luck finished 19-36, 203 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He did lose a fumble, though. Luck has been sacked, like I mentioned, again, 3 times today. He was only sacked twice in his last 4 games combined, so he's not used to that, which definitely threw him off his game. He was uncharacteristically inaccurate for most of this contest. Another thing that kind of baffled me about the Colts was why they abandoned the run so early in the game. With Marlon Mack coming off a huge game, he only had 9 touches for 46 yards, and Hines had 3 for 24, so I feel like they definitely abandoned the run too early in the game and didn't ever really go back to it. And T.Y. Hilton didn't really look 100% either, so even more so why they should have went back to it. T.Y. Hilton finished 4 receptions, 60 yards, and a touchdown. Inman, 4 receptions, 55 yards. Ebron, 5 receptions, 51 yards. Defensively speaking, Darius Leonard with a forced fumble and a recovery as well. And he led his team with tackles with 14. Kenny Moore had a really good game as well in coverage and rushing the passer. He's kind of all over the place. 2 sacks and 12 tackles for him. They were only 2 that showed up on the Colts defense, Kenny Moore and Darius Leonard. Otherwise, the Colts defense that we've kind of been characteristically seeing here in this season, pretty consistent, strong play, did not really show up outside of those 2. And Adam Vinatieri, what is up with all these goats missing huge kicks lately this season? I feel like that's been a theme. Adam Vinatieri missed a 23-yard field goal. He was 14 of 14 in playoffs on field goals from 25 yards or closer. And since 91, Vinatieri was the only player in the NFL who was perfect on field goals from that range. He also missed an extra point. Very sad game for him. Not like it would have made much of a difference, but I think things like that kind of pull the momentum from your feet, so it definitely makes differences. So for Kansas City, congratulations to them, well-deserved. First time Kansas City has hosted an AFC Championship game in Super Bowl era, which, by the way, is their first AFC Championship game appearance since '93. Andy Reid is now 21-3 in games following a bye, including playoff byes. Last team to win a playoff game by more than 14 points with 0 passing touchdowns was the 2013 Patriots. Ironic, because that's who they face next. The Chiefs are now 33-2 when leading by 17-plus points in the Andy Reid era. Those 2 losses were both wild card playoff games to Tennessee and Indy in the past. So definitely going to be interesting to see that matchup going forward next week. We'll talk about that a little more in a second. But first, let's go on to the next game, Rams versus Cowboys. Jared Goff was 15 of 28, 186 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Gosh, that's 2 high-power offenses with no passing touchdowns. And the Chiefs and the Rams this week. That's crazy. The Panthers and the Raiders both had C.J. Anderson on their rosters this year, yet both franchises cut him without even a second thought. When Oakland became the second team to release him this year, who would have thought that he would have ended up in a team that was already ready to advance the NFC Championship? Like, this team was already strong. Now they just added serious firepower into their arsenal, especially for postseason play, as that's definitely familiar territory for him coming from the Broncos. Anderson steamrolled the Cowboys completely. Dallas had one of the top run defenses in the NFL entering this game, yet it completely looked gassed when trying to stop this rumbling running back. C.J. Anderson finished with 23 carries, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns, and Gurley 8 as well with 16 carries, 115 yards, and a touchdown. 273 rushing yards combined on this game for the Rams marks the most in playoff game in Rams history. Gurley and Anderson are the 4th teammate duo with 100-plus rushing yards in a game in the last 30 postseasons. Todd Gurley is the first Rams player to have multiple 100-plus rushing yard playoff games since Eric Dickerson in 84-86. Robert Woods had a good day, 6 receptions, 69 yards. Cooks, 4 receptions, 65 yards. Defensively speaking, Aqib Talib with a forced fumble and 7 tackles. Littleton with 7 tackles, a pass deflection, and a tackle for a loss. Johnson with 7 tackles. Joyner back with 6 tackles. Ibukum had what would have been an interception, but he dropped it. And as a whole, they only recorded 1 sack, but they did have 7 tackles for a loss. Dak Prescott finished what was probably one of the worst games, 20 of 32, 266 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. He only rushed for 3 yards. He did have a rushing touchdown, however. Ezekiel did not eat. Zeke did not eat this week. He must have left all that at home. He only had 20 carries for 47 yards. They completely shut him down on the ground. There was only 1 touchdown and only 19 receiving yards for him on the game with 47 yards. Both star dual threat backs didn't see much in the receiving targets of this game, so I thought that was kind of weird. Neither Gurley nor Zeke were seen targeted in the receiving area, which is kind of odd because that's part of their game. Gallup had a good game. He had 6 receptions, 119 yards. Cooper with 6 receptions, 65 yards. Defensively speaking for Dallas I don't know what the heck happened. They did not show up like the stellar defense that we have been seeing and witnessing towards the end of this season. They were completely silenced. They were not effective against the run at all, obviously, and did not record even 1 sack. The same defense that shut down the league's lead rushing attack last week with Seahawks couldn't stop the run this week. So you never know what team you're going to get with these going into the postseason. It's crazy what's going on. Were they tired from last week? Did they get beat up on by the rush game and the rushing attack of the Seahawks? I don't know, but they definitely did not show up to stop any kind of run, and they couldn't get a run off on offense. Jalen Smith led the team with 9 tackles, Xavier Woods and Heath next with 8 tackles each. The Rams had 114 rushing yards on their first 3 drives. That's horrible. They literally ran through them. The Cowboys allowed 73 rushing yards in an entire game versus the Seahawks last week versus 273 this week. Crazy. Next game, Patriots versus Chargers. Now the Patriots are headed to their 8th straight AFC title game. Throughout the Patriots' great history, they actually have never scored 3 touchdowns on their first 3 drives. They did that in this contest, but not only did they do that, They did it against an amazing defense, and they actually surpassed the feat by scoring a touchdown on their first 4 possessions. The Chargers looked completely befuddled by the whatever New England was coming up with and doing. They were confusing them, giving them different looks. They were ineffective in the red zone. They was picked apart by Tom Brady. By the time the Patriots went up 28-7 midway through the second quarter, they had achieved 19 first downs. The Chargers had just 16 plays by that point, and they had already had 19 first downs. That's crazy. Tom Brady finished 34-44, 343 yards, a touchdown, no interception. He had all day in the pocket, no pressure whatsoever. I mean, he was calling Giselle back there talking. I mean, all day, no pressure. And yet this is, where was Bosa? Where was Melvin Ingram? I don't know what happened with the Chargers defense. Brady is now 8-0 versus Rivers in his career, including playoffs. I know that was a really hard loss for Rivers. That's got to be really frustrating. Sony Michel, the rookie, had an amazing performance, 24 carries, 129 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Michel with most rushing touchdowns in a playoff game by a Patriots rookie. He had 3 rushing touchdowns this game. Sony Michel is also the 4th rookie to rush for 3+ touchdowns in a postseason game in the Super Bowl era. Edelman finished amazing game as well. 9 receptions, 151 yards. James White with 15 receptions, 97 yards. Gronk was held to 25 yards, but he did make some effective big plays. Julian Edelman has passed Reggie Wayne, 93, for the 2nd most receptions in NFL playoff history, only second to Jerry Rice, who has 151. James White has tied Darren Sproles' playoff record for the most receptions in a single game in the Super Bowl era with 15. Defensively speaking, the team as a whole with 8 pass deflections, 2 by Gilmore, D. McCourty, Jackson, were all great in coverage. McClellan with the fumble recovery. D. McCourty led with 7 tackles. Chung next with 6 tackles. Hightower was smothering with pressures. He was all over the place. Phillip Rivers was pressured on 70.6% of the dropbacks in the first half. Rivers finished 25-51, 331 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. No run game at all was developed, completely shut down. Gordon only had 15 yards on the game. They didn't even target him in the passing game, only 2 targets. Why? This is somebody who can attack you multiple ways. Why did we not use that? Or why did they not use that? It was definitely weird to see that. Also, the Patriots aren't typically strong in the run defense, so this was interesting to see them shut out such a strong rushing attack team, especially with Melvin Gordon at the helm of it. Tyrell Williams had 5 receptions, 94 yards. Keenan Allen, 2 receptions, 75 yards and a touchdown. Mike Williams, 5 receptions, 68 yards. Desmond King with a huge fumble and a punt return that definitely shifted huge momentums. It was pretty much over after that. I mean, it pretty much lost. That was where they lost their chances of even trying to come back into that game, in my opinion. Defensively speaking, Ade led with 12 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss. Derwin James with 10 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss. Jenkins with 9 tackles. Desmond King with 7 tackles, but honestly, he struggled horribly with Edelman. Obviously, Edelman put up 151 yards on him. Also, there was 0 sacks recorded. Where was Bosa? Where was Ingram? Like I said, they were weak to the screens. Both Belichick and Brady exploited that liability very much so. They just couldn't seem to penetrate and ruffle Brady's feathers, which I thought they were going to be able to. And without that, Brady just took over. He had too much time. You can't give him too much time. Much like the Cowboys defense not performing at a high level that they were capable of, the same went for this Chargers defense this week, in my opinion. So the last game, Saints versus Eagles. Eagles started out hot. It was looking really scary. I was definitely nervous. They put up 14-0, but then we had 20 unanswered points. So for the rest of the game, the Eagles never scored again since the first quarter. The largest postseason comeback in franchise history. The Saints are now 6-0 in home playoff games since 2006, which is the Breeze-Payton era. Drew Brees finished 28 of 38, 301 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Kamara finished 16 carries, 71 yards, and 35 receiving yards, 106 total yards on the day, and Ingram finished 9 carries, 53 yards. Michael Thomas had an amazing game. You literally cannot guard Mike. That is what they call him. That is his handle on social media. Fittingly so, he had 12 receptions, 171 yards, and a touchdown. Again, had 3 receptions, 44 yards. Kirkwood with the touchdown. Thomas set a new franchise playoff record in receiving yards, and Taysom Hill threw a beautiful touchdown pass, which would have been to Kamara. That was called back, but it would have been he definitely contributed huge in other ways with the 4th down conversion, fake punt. He just comes in, and it's always trickery, and you would think they'd pick up on it by now, but I love seeing what they come up with him in the package. The Saints took the lead on an 18-play, 92-yard scoring drive in the third quarter. That drive featured the second most plays by a team on a touchdown drive in the playoffs since 1999. Defensively speaking, Marshawn Lattimore was definitely the MVP with 2 interceptions on the game. The first one started the momentum swing back in our court, and then it stayed there and never really changed. And then the second one pretty much sealed the game at the end. Davis led the team in tackles with 8, decent coverage in secondary, pass deflections all over. Big factor going forward is definitely going to be the injury to Sheldon Rankins. Without him, it will be definitely huge and tough going against the Rams with a whole new type of running attack now with Anderson in the mix. Gurley and Anderson going at it, and Rankins missing will definitely be something to watch and monitor. Also in the pass rushing game, Rankins eats other people up, so I just don't know how it's going to affect. I really hope it doesn't. But the Eagles, Nick Foles finished 18 of 31, 201 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and a rushing touchdown. No run game at all was developed. Smallwood only had 33 yards. Alshon Jeffrey had a good game, but we'll get to how that got twisted. 5 receptions, 63 yards. Ertz, 5 receptions, 50. Matthews with 1 reception for the 37-yard touchdown. Defensively speaking, they were strong at first, but they just completely faded out. Graham with a forced fumble, LeBlanc with 1 interception and 2 pass deflections. If I had to pick somebody, I guess LeBlanc would have been like their MVP in the beginning, and then he kind of started to struggle towards the end. Great in coverage, Malcolm Jenkins and Bradham led in tackles with 10, Hicks next with 9, Maddox with 8, and only 2 sacks total, but they definitely brought a whole lot of pressure in that game. So let's look ahead real quick with both games. Actually, ironically, for the AFC Championship game and the NFC Championship game, they are both rematches from regular season games, with the Chiefs and the Rams definitely going to be looking for some vengeance there. Patriots at Chiefs for the AFC Championship. Brady can get flustered and rattled if attacked and affected early, which I think Kansas City defense right now is very capable of doing. However, Mahomes is a little harder to get rattled due to his ability to be super mobile and scramble and do so well running, throwing on the run. So I think it'll be a little trickier for the Patriots to coordinate how to get him flustered, because I don't think it's as easy as it is for Brady. I mean, for goodness sake, the guy can throw without looking and do all kinds of tricky throws off balance and still do it accurately. Both teams have a lot of offensive weapons, so they're definitely equally yoked there. I know Belichick will definitely come up with his best and definitely have a plan to be executed to throw off Kansas City in different looks, so hopefully Kansas City can adjust to that. I will say this, though. I don't honestly think the fact that Brady's resume and the fact that he's had more playoff wins than Mahomes has had career wins has anything to do with what's going to be the outcome of this game. I really don't. I think my favorite matchup to watch is going to be, and the most exciting thing to watch, in my opinion, is to be seeing Reed versus Belichick on these master senseis and what game plan they come up with, and the execution of these game plans and the adjustments made throughout the game, how the game will be managed. Will one take a more conservative route? It's supposed to be 20 degrees, and who knows if it's going to be a messy 20 degrees. So it'll be an interesting game to see. Next game, Rams at Saints in the Dome, baby. NFC Championship. Gurley and Anderson versus the number 2 run defense, basically, is how this matchup is going to go. However, with Rankins being out, like I said, it's going to be a problem. Everyone else just needs to step up that much more so that the loss is not felt. But an interesting stat, however, I don't think people realize, is we know we have one of the best run defenses, if not the best. But did you know they haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher in 25 straight games, including playoffs? So with that being said, I'm pretty optimistic that the Saints will adjust accordingly and play well with or without Rankins. Also, a huge factor is Aqib Talib will be back, and he will be huge in coverage, but Michael Thomas may not put up 211 yards again on them, but you literally cannot guard Mike. So he's still going to do his thing, and it's still going to be a matchup that I'm comfortable with either way. Saints offensive line will definitely have to be at its strongest. They are also one of the best in protecting their quarterback, but I'm going to need to see them at their absolute best, because this Rams front 7 will not be shut out or silenced again like they were in the regular season matchup. So I have the Saints in Kansas City in the Super Bowl. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see the results and talk next week.
I'm so happy to be talking about the best quarterback in the league. MVP on the beat like breeze. Touchdown, look at that scoreboard. We on fire now, we ready to roll. Hey, one time for the Who That Nation, cause you know we bleed black and gold. Saints fans, where you at? Can I get a hand clap? Can I get a hand clap? he ain't great. I'm calling just to call him a friend. Super Bowl time, we about to do it again. We give his best 7 games for us. And at home, he a real good father. Right there we celebrate. Y'all help me do it up. Happy birthday,